to reason. Will you open your eyes? It's a wonder what you'll find with an open mind. You may be surprised. Yeah, gotta get away from this illusion for the sake of the world. This delusion has gotta go. Yeah.
I always want to drum the table every time. Hey everybody, welcome to the Atheist Experience Live. I'm Matt Dillahunty. Joining me this week, Jen Peeples. It is March 17th, St.
Yes.
Patrick's Day 2013. I couldn't give a rat's ass that it's St. Patrick's
Yes.
Day. It's also the end of South by Southwest, the festival in Austin that's music and movies and interactive, and mostly I really don't care that much about that
Sounds
either.
like general insanity if
Yeah,
you're trying to
it's,
do something downtown.
It's Traffic Festival here in
Yeah.
Austin, which is why we went outside of Austin for lunch yesterday
Yeah.
and everything else. But we hope everybody's doing great, and thanks for joining us this week live. You wanted to talk a little bit about marriage equality right off the top of the show. It's a live call-in
Yeah.
show. We'll have the number up for you shortly. The lines are actually full or almost full at this point, so we'll go ahead and get started.
Yeah, we got a ton of email in the last week. It's like people have just discovered this marriage equality issue, and for some reason, the emails that we got this week it seemed to be people who don't understand there's a difference between the issue that's before the Supreme Court right now, which has to do with marriage equality, and adoption rights. Okay, a lot of them justify their opposition to marriage equality because they say, oh, gay people shouldn't raise children, or I don't think it's right, or some kind of visceral response to gay people parenting children. So what I wanted to address right off the bat is that marriage equality and adoption rights are separate issues. We're already raising families. We have children. And in fact, we have about 40 years worth of research that shows that the sexual orientation of a parent is not relevant to how well a child does. What you need is a stable family and good parents. And that's something that major child welfare organizations, they're all on board with LGBT people raising children, with second parent adoption, because if you are a child welfare advocate and you think that children should be raised by as many people as necessary to take care of them properly, then you should be in favor of second parent adoption, because that actually ensures that a child's best interests are looked after. But this whole marriage equality thing, what's before the court is not about adoption. What's before the court right now with the repeal of DOMA and the Prop 8 question from California, those have to do specifically with civil marriage, whether we're going to extend civil marriage to everyone or whether we're going to restrict it to just a specific group of people. And so that's what's at issue right now. It's not adoption. So please don't pretend that you're an advocate for children if you're coming up and saying that gay people shouldn't be able to adopt.
Yeah, that would be like exactly backwards.
Yeah. Yeah.
Hey, let's advocate for children by making sure there are fewer possible good homes for them to live in.
Yeah.
It's just baffling.
Yeah.
It's one of the things that I had in this conversation with somebody who emailed us about all this. She started raising all sorts of irrelevant points,
Yeah.
About what's the norm and normalcy and the risks. And so one of her big concerns was the risk of HIV and how it's more prevalent in homosexual men. Well, great. Congratulations. First of all, same-sex marriage isn't just constrained to homosexual men.
Right.
So you're already starting by dealing with a smaller than complete view of the thing.
Yeah.
But also, if your concern is about the transmission and spread of HIV, then, and your argument is that you don't want men to marry men, instead you would encourage a system that encourages less monogamy and more promiscuity. I mean, don't get me wrong, I don't agree with her position or her points that she was making at the beginning, but it's like not only did you bring up irrelevant, really bad points, but if they were true, they would still contradict what your position is.
Well, exactly, and heterosexuality is not this magical barrier to
What?
HIV. Yeah. I know.
It's funny that people, my positions on sexuality and gender identity and all kinds of things have changed dramatically from the time when I was a Christian believer to now when I'm working for the devil. But it's interesting to watch people who are beginning this kind of discovery period, stuff that I had gone through before, the discovery of the kind of like Kinsey scales, and that there isn't just this black and white gay straight, and it's not just gay bi straight, that there's this full-on spectrum, and you're probably 5% gay or 10% or whatever. I mean, you can't really quantify it, but the point being that human sexuality and human gender identity are not these simple little boxes that people want to stick people in, and then claim this is normal.
Even biological sex is not the binary thing that most people think of. I mean, there are intersex individuals who may fall, on, some part of that spectrum. They may be, more identified as female or more identified as male, but not distinctly male or female, or they might be somewhere right in the middle, and that's where this whole idea that, you've got these binaries where you have male, female, gay, straight, whatever. That's not necessarily the way things work.
The funny part of it is the one email. I mean, there were several people who emailed in on this subject, and some got it more than others. And I dealt with some over Facebook and had conversations that were pretty productive. The one that was the least productive and the most confusing, it was basically gays are icky.
Yeah.
And I'm going to try to rationalize my gay is icky bigotry as much as possible.
Yeah. Well, the other thing I like is that this idea that if we have marriage equality, that somehow there won't be as many people reproducing because two gay people can't possibly, have a child.
It's amazing.
I know, even though my wife gave birth to our child, go figure. But, this whole idea that if we have fewer people reproducing, that somehow the human race will cease to exist.
Yeah, I'm pretty much in the position that only gay people should be getting married at this point, and that only people who jump through amazing hoops to reproduce should be doing so, because I don't need another 16 and pregnant series spinoff, and I didn't know I was pregnant, and oh my gosh, I've got 19 kids and counting, because there's 7+ billion of us at this point. I'm pretty sure it's not the end of the world to let people marry who don't have any intent of having kids, and we do.
Yeah.
Yeah,
there's no fertility test when you go in to get a marriage license.
Yeah.
You don't have to prove that you're fertile and that you intend to have children.
When your 80-year-old grandmother decides to remarry, are you going to go after her? Because she can't have kids anymore either.
Yeah.
Oh, but she's a grandmother.
Yeah. Although if you get married in the Catholic Church, I think they do require that you intend to have kids.
Well, those 80-year-olds can intend all they want.
Yeah.
It's probably not going to happen. So we'll go ahead and take some calls. As a reminder, after the show's over today, we'll get together and go to dinner at Threadgill's, 301 West Riverside. Is it West Riverside or East Riverside Drive?
Riverside,
West Riverside Drive, right there. We're on from 4:30 to 5:30. We'll be down there around 6. I can't tell you what to do, but boy, if you wanted to.
Yeah.
Anyway, we'll start off with Jessica in Huntington Beach. How are you?
Hi. Hi.
You're live. Hi. It's Matt and Jen. How you doing?
I'm doing well. How are you guys?
Good.
Pretty good.
Hey, you forgot about the show with Octomom.
What's that?
You forgot about Octomom. Octomom. Never mind.
Oh, yeah, Octomom, yes.
Yeah.
Well, hey, I had a question as to why when really traumatic things happen to people, they tend to turn to God. Like, for example, my friend, she got a really bad car accident, and now she believes in God. And I'm just wondering to ask you, why do you think that happens? Because it's really confusing.
I think it's because people are trained to do that.
Yeah.
I don't think it's necessarily something that's natural. This goes back to there's no atheists in foxholes, which I'm sure you'll speak on.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think it's a learned behavior. We're taught that it's socially acceptable to turn to God after you've had some kind of traumatic event happen to you. But the interesting thing is that if you look at across like the whole world, the poorest cultures, the poorest people on the planet are also the most religious. And my view on this is that there's this like cultural tendency to turn to a church. We've sort of been trained to do this because the view is that the church is this benevolent helper out there. And my view on that is that churches the world over are preying on these people who are in a very vulnerable position. And so they are actually feeding that cultural bias towards turning to religion in times of stress.
A lot of religions actually spend time preying on the most needy people in their hour of need. And I've said somebody had said that that religion poisons you and then offers you the antidote. And I kind of changed this a little bit in the sense that religion pretends that you're poisoned in order to give you the pretend antidote, which seems a lot more effective because there wasn't anything wrong with you in the first place.
Right.
And so there's no denying that what some religions offer is appealing. We have an aversion to death, and this causes a lot of fear and concern. And so the idea that you might not die could be appealing to people. The idea that there's somebody who loves you even when nobody else seems to love you. There's somebody who cares about you and wants to share something with you even when you feel alone. That the loved ones that you have already died, that you'll get to see them again. There's lots and lots of appealing ideas, and the idea that you're not in an indifferent universe that is potentially chaotic, and that in fact this is all part of somebody's plan, even if you can't see it. This is appealing. And so when you're in those dire situations, you've been in a car wreck, you don't know what's going to happen, your world is turned upside down, just clinging to the idea that somehow, some way, this all makes sense and is part of a plan is an idea that many people gravitate toward. And I don't think it's any accident that those are the things that religions tend to prey on.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, thank you very much.
Sure. Thanks for calling.
Thanks.
Okay. Have a good day. Bye.
All right. We got Thomas in Colorado Springs. How are you?
I'm doing well. Matt, Jen, how are you doing as well?
Good.
Pretty good. Thanks for waiting. What's up?
Very good. Well, I've got I've been dealing with this for about 15 years, just trying to pin down Christians. I'm still willing to engage them, although I know it must have moved to try and convert people one-on-one, but I was wondering if you had just a couple of corralling questions, that kind of lead you towards a penny move, if you will. Just trying to make sense of...
The audio on your phone is really kind of garbled. I don't understand what you said so far.
Hold on, I apologize. Does that help? I've got you off speakerphone.
Okay.
Can you hear me better?
Yeah.
So far.
Very good. All right. My question to you is, and let me give you a little bit of background. I've been an atheist for about 15 years, and I've been trying to really understand why people don't want to understand the truth. That makes any sense. And when discussing, rather than just talking to people and saying, hey, getting right to the meat of it, I was wondering if you had a couple questions that corral people towards a final question, just to kind of pin them down. As you know, Christians are quite slippery when you have no point of reference.
Everybody's going to be different. I've always started with the idea that I actually care about what's true and find out whether or not they do. And then the second they demonstrate that they're not using the tools that are likely to lead you to a correct answer, point that out. And if they're willing to see reason and maybe address things in a skeptical, rational, critical thinking way, then you can continue. And if they don't, then you're stuck with you and I disagree on whether or not you actually care about truth, because you're exercising things that are demonstrably not reliable paths to truth. As soon as you're making an appeal to faith, you're done.
Well, and and it's hard to, for somebody not to appeal to faith being a Christian if you are engaging them. So you're always going to get that. I didn't know if there were just some broad stroke questions that just push them to, it just cuts the meat off the situation and gets right to the matter. And, you can say, hey, define your God and give evidence of them. You could probably start out like that, and I think that's pretty much a finishing move. But
well, I mean, if you're asking if there are some like magic questions that you can ask that are, that will basically end the discussion on your terms right off the bat, there aren't any.
Otherwise, we'd have stopped doing this show about 10 or 15 years ago.
I have no idea how you guys do this day in and day out. It's amazing.
The big things that you can do right off the bat is just legitimately ask them, why do you believe, and why do you think I should believe? What is it? Because many people will believe because they feel that they've got some sort of divine revelation. Well, I can't live inside their head, so I don't find their justification rather convincing, and I don't think that they should be convinced by it. But surely we can agree that I should not be convinced because they've had a divine revelation, and that there must be something else that should convince me. And so I would ask them, why do you believe, and why do you think I should believe? And the why do you think I should believe is the one that matters more, because reality is the thing that we share. Now everybody, you can have your own personal little reality, but that doesn't mean that it maps to the actual reality.
And that is an excellent point. And I think what I'm finding the biggest problem is with terminology. When I say, hey, there's the truth and there's everything else, and the truth should stand alone and speak for itself. When I say the truth, they go, whoa, yeah, I have the truth too. The truth of the Lord in me. And you got to go and you got to pin them down on everything. And I just know that y'all are far better at this than I am, and obviously gluttons for punishment too, because
I'll still engage
everybody on a one-on-one situation. It's just that they're just so slippery.
Ask lots of questions and ask why. Eventually, you're not going to, if your goal is to just keep going running around, entering one-on-one situations and freeing people from religion, that's highly unlikely. In the years that I've been doing this, I can think of maybe one or two occasions where one-on-one lengthy conversation led to that. Instead, it's the reason we do the show is that this gets a lot of information out to a lot of people. A lot of these conversations, and some people take time, and people got into religion for various reasons, and they're going to get out for various reasons. It drives me crazy when people say, oh, you can't reason someone out of a belief they didn't reason themselves into in the first place. Because first of all, you could, except that they did reason themselves into it. Every position you have, you were reasoned into. You believe things because you've been convinced. The point is that you've been convinced for really bad reasons, and when you expose that, then you have a way out. And everybody, I don't know, we've got a pretty good studio audience. How many people used to be religious? Yeah, so more than half the people in the room, and hopefully it was reason that helped them escape from religious thinking. So,
and that's what happened to me. I actually went back, and like a lot of people do, and I just looked at it through adult eyes, and I said, this doesn't make sense. And when I went to the people, i.e. my family, who my father is a Baptist, not a preacher, but he teaches Sunday school, and I guarantee he's there when the doors open. And my mother is Lutheran, converted to Catholic. Don't know how you do that, but I tried to ask them these questions, and honestly, to this day, I've had zero questions answered, real questions. They tried to just blow, the Lord's sunshine up my butt, and, it really is frustrating.
It certainly can be.
I've lost everybody in my family over this issue, and I just don't understand why they don't want to know the truth.
Yeah, you fix the things you fix, and you're not going to fix the ones you can't.
All right. With
Thanks,
all
Thomas.
that said, I do have proof of God.
Do you?
Is that weird? Matt Dillahunty, you are a god among atheists.
Okay.
No, he's not.
Not really, but thanks so much for...
Very good.
Cool. Yeah, not a god by any stretch of anyone's imagination.
I was going to say, Nope, you're real.
And it's, yeah, I'm not a god because I exist. But yeah, it's stupid, crazy hot in here. My head's like on fire from the lights today.
These are bright.
Anyway, we've got Paul in Chicago. How are you?
Hello, hi. Thanks for taking my call.
Sure.
I'm a Catholic, and I think we all could agree on how terrible racism is.
Sure.
But I question whether atheism, with its belief that we evolved totally by chance, can give an adequate response to racism.
So why do you think that atheists have a belief that we evolved by chance?
So you don't say that we evolved by chance? Was there a design?
That's not the question. Why do you think that that's a tenet of atheism?
Okay, I'm open to hear what you have to say. Do you believe in evolution? Am I correct?
I do believe that evolution is the best explanation for the diversity of life on this planet.
All right.
Okay, but that does not imply that evolution is a chance occurrence.
Okay, it's not a chance occurrence.
Right.
But it wasn't. Okay, but are you saying?
And that's not a tenet of atheism.
Okay, all right. I know that's not a tenet of atheism, but
if we get to your real objection, your position is you don't think that a worldview that doesn't include a God can account for opposition to racism.
Well, it's kind of what I'm saying, but what I'm saying is that you have these different races, and they each evolved. Some would evolve earlier than others. Some evolved later than others. Some evolved faster than others. To say otherwise, it seems to smack of some sort of design to say that each race, independently on its own,
I'm wondering if you're confusing
at the same pace.
I'm wondering if you're confusing. First of all, I'm wondering if you're confusing race with species, because pretty much humans, the differences between us that we often identify as race, the timescales in those really aren't relevant. I don't understand why that's relevant to equality. It's not the sort of thing. I'm just having a really difficult time kind of understanding what the objection is. And let me put it this way. As a Catholic, I would assume that you accept the bulk of the Bible at some level. And so would you agree that God has a chosen people that were the Israelites?
Yes.
And you understand that the Bible supports and endorses slavery and condones it?
Yes.
Okay. And so of the two of our worldviews, mine, which is founded on humanism and understanding that we are all related, and that while we may not all be actually equal in every measurable sense, that some, whether you're talking about breaking it down along lines of primarily male-female, you may find that men or genetically male individuals may have better physical strength, but that's not a difference that we say, oh, this is better as a human being. The equality that we talk about when we're talking about things like race or gender or anything along those lines is about how we treat people, and that we should begin with the foundation that build a system in which you would want to live not knowing what you're going to be. That is kind of the humanist cake cutter approach. I want to design a system before I know whether I'm going to enter it as male, female, white, black, whatever. And that equitable system is one that results in an elimination, or as much of an elimination as possible, of racist mentality.
Okay, I would totally agree with that, and the Catholic Church would totally agree with that.
No, they wouldn't.
No, they wouldn't.
Yes, they would.
Well, then
if you would check that, there was a papal bull issued a long time ago before we had slavery in this country, which condemned slavery.
Yeah, but okay,
if you look at Mexico, which is predominantly was settled by Catholic Spain, there was not the race problem that we've had. In fact, the Spaniards would actually intermarry with the Indians.
Paul, even if I gave it to you that the Catholic Church did this, that has nothing to do with the subject that we're talking about. Your position was that a worldview without a God couldn't account for opposition to racism, and I just offered you the explanation. Hang on, let me finish.
Okay.
I just offered you a worldview without a God that does offer an explanation like that, and you agreed that the Bible, which you understand to be true and good and the basis from God, actually does not stand in opposition to racism. Even if your Catholic Church does, it's doing it without any. Let Paul, you're on hold. Even if the Catholic Church did do this and stand in opposition to racism, they are not using the Bible, the foundation of their religion, as the justification for this. It is not their God-based worldview that is encouraging them to stand in opposition to racism. It is the secular worldview around them that has dragged them kicking and screaming from the Dark Ages that has encouraged this sort of change, this departure from their teachings, from their biblical teachings.
Well, the thing is, though, first of all, you have, I think you're misunderstanding the Catholic view of the Bible, and it's different than the Protestant view. And we don't believe in sola scriptura. We believe that, and we also believe that in progressive revelation. And so that even though the Bible might have allowed for slavery, actually back then, what are you going to do if, let's say, a tribe invades you and you beat them? What are you going to do with the survivors?
Are you really saying that there's a justification for owning other people as property?
Well, tell me what you would do if you were
no. I'm asking you.
And you won the invasion, and you're going to just say, okay, you guys go back and you be good, and nothing will happen.
Yeah, that's actually what you have to do.
Yeah. It's actually part of the rules of modern warfare that we've actually discovered.
Yeah, but you're looking in terms of modern warfare. I'm looking at it in terms
do you know why, Paul? Paul, do you know why? Because we've learned more about right and wrong. My point is that you have a book that advocates a position that is immoral, and you believe that it comes from God.
Wait a minute. Even in modern warfare, when we beat Japan, didn't we occupy Japan?
I'm not justifying anything that we've done. I'm not even justifying war or invasion. Matter of fact, the invasions and the wars that are cataloged in the Bible, I would say were immoral from the outset. This idea that we're God's chosen people and we're going to come and take your shit, that's just immoral.
Yeah.
Okay, but this is kind of getting away from what I wanted to talk about.
Do you acknowledge that somebody can have a worldview without a God and actually have a good, sound justification for opposing racism?
Not when you try to explain how all races have evolved equally.
That's not an opposition to racism. You're conflating two separate issues. I'm talking about how people are treated and considered, and that people have equal opportunity and are treated equally under the law and under the law and have equal rights.
Everybody agrees with that. I, as a Catholic, agree with that.
Yeah, why?
Because we're all created equally. But we're not actually.
We're neither created nor
equally, because we're not all evolved equally if there is no God.
Yeah, I just said we're not created and we're not created equal. Your foundation
Okay, so
is
you
false.
agree that some races are not evolving as fast as other races?
Race is, if you're talking about humans, race is largely a social construct.
Yeah.
It doesn't actually exist as like a thing.
Yeah.
Okay, let's say subspecies.
There are
Sure.
no subspecies.
There's just humans.
Yeah.
We don't have a subspecies of
Okay,
human.
so you're saying, let's say the white race, the black race, the Asian race, they all evolved equally.
No, they're social constructs.
They're social constructs.
Yes, this differentiation based on skin tone is something we do. It's not about who we really are.
Are we all evolved from the same couple?
No, we didn't all evolve from the same two individuals.
Did we all evolve? Did we all evolve at the same time? Did we all evolve from different primates at the same time?
Every human being on the planet, and every other living thing, by the way, shares a common ancestor. You have this strange misunderstanding of evolution where you're looking at it as a progression or a ladder or things happen. It's a tree. It's just change over time. Am I more advanced than you? That's not even a concept within evolution. Am I more evolved than you? That's not the way to look at it either. As much as it might be appealing to some people to think that they're more evolved, everything, you could say, is equally evolved. From our common ancestor, we've had an equivalent amount of time. There may not be equivalent generations, but you're just looking at changes. The qualities that you're applying to this are things that you're infusing or imbuing humans with. It's not, I mean, yes, my skin tone is slightly different from Jen's, and there's a variety of skin tones in here. But I don't want to do this, I don't see race thing, because that's just completely insulting to the fact that there are differences. What I'm talking about is how people are treated, how they're treated under the law, that they're not. I don't even know what you mean by equal, because what I'm talking about by equal is how we value people, how we treat them under the law, that people have equal rights and equal opportunity, not that we are all equivalently strong or equivalently smart, and those differentiations don't even occur on the lines of what we would identify as race. There are absolutely brilliant and stupid people.
We all come from the same common ancestor, correct?
Yes, we share a common ancestor.
Okay, so that means we all come from the same couple?
No.
No.
Okay, we come from different couples.
Well,
different primate couples or whatever. You know, we didn't come from the same primate ancestor. Is that correct?
Look, let me do it. Let me explain it to you this way. Spanish and French, they're both Latin languages. They both are derived from Latin, correct?
Correct.
Was there some point where a Latin-speaking mother gave birth to a Spanish-speaking child?
A Latin-speaking mother giving birth? Well, if she doesn't give birth to a child that speaks anyway.
Okay, sure. The baby didn't come out talking.
Correct.
But was there ever a time when a Latin-speaking mother raised a Spanish-speaking child? That the mother and child spoke different languages?
If the mother married
the answer is no.
Married somebody who was of speaking a different language.
No, the answer is no. Spanish is derived from Latin. A Latin mother never gave birth to a kid that then grew up speaking Spanish, a language different. What happened is this pocket of Latin-speaking people went off over here, and this pocket of Latin-speaking people went over here, and their languages changed over time to where now, in the modern era, we can look at it as Spanish and French. But the person who speaks Spanish here and the person who speaks Spanish here don't necessarily share the same couple, even though those couples interact on the tree as we proceed back to a Latin couple. It's something you probably have to draw.
With that. I agree with all that, but I agree that there is something sociologically going on. But are you saying that after we evolved from the primate, we didn't continue to evolve?
No, we're evolving even today.
Okay.
We've never stopped evolving.
It's a
to
constant.
evolve even today.
Yes.
then, and if some people evolved, I don't know how you can get away from it, of saying that some people evolved faster than others.
Because there's no evolve faster.
Why is it important for you to think that some people evolved faster than others? Where does that get you?
Well, actually, I don't believe that people evolve faster than others.
Well, we don't either.
But I don't see how you can say that you don't.
That's because you don't understand evolution at all, which is why you don't accept it. Which, by the way, the Catholic Church does accept it.
Yeah.
And I accept evolution too.
Well, then maybe you should take some time to actually go understand it. I'd recommend talkorigins.org as a great source. There's also
National Center for
Science Education, and Stanford University has put up an evolution site. You can learn all these things, and you can get a better understanding of it. But back to the original question, and then we've got to let you go. I have a worldview that doesn't have a God. I don't believe in a God, and yet I have no problem standing in opposition to racism. Because first of all, what I value has no basis in whether or not one group evolved faster than other or anything, which is just a nonsensical concept. It's because I understand the value of treating people equally and having people with equal standing under the law. I don't need a God for this understanding. I don't need to make appeals to rates of evolution or evolutionary advances. I only need to understand that we are all humans stuck on this planet interacting, and that the best possible system ensures that none of us are held superior to others, because that is simply false. And it is a counterproductive system. Do you agree that that is a sound way to go about this?
I agree that it's a sound way, but I don't see that you have a rational basis for saying that.
Then you don't know what sound or rational means. I'm sorry, Paul, but thanks for the call. You can't say something is sound and then say you don't have a rational basis for it. IronChariots.org. Go look up soundness at our wiki.
Oh, that was painful.
It was. How much more painful do we want to be today? We got Danny in Orlando. How are you? Thanks for waiting.
Hey, Matt. How are you?
Horse.
For the last caller, huh? Well, I'm actually a Christian, and I'm calling in reference to the atheist religion. I wanted to know
Atheism isn't a religion.
What do you believe? I was
Danny?
watching.
Danny?
Danny?
Yes.
Atheism isn't a religion.
Well, what do you believe as an atheist society?
About what?
Well, first of all, atheism is just the rejection of theistic claims. It's a position on a single issue, whether or not a God exists. Everything else is something else. So atheism has no tenets, no dogma, no traditions, no governing bodies. There's nothing about it that you could identify as religious. And atheists, the only way you could be a bad atheist is to believe in God. If you believe in God, you're not really an atheist.
Yeah, you're doing it wrong.
Other than that, anything else, any other position is entirely open. So you can't say, what do atheists believe about X? I can tell you what a lot of rational secular humanists who are atheists happen to think about a particular issue, but there's no guarantee that actually, it's true for religion as well. You're not going to find all Southern Baptists or even agree on any one thing or everything.
Right. Well, I was listening to you earlier, and you were saying, I think, to another caller about asking. I think you said he was an atheist for like 15 years, and you were saying, well, when you conversate with a Christian or someone else that is in a certain belief or whatever, you ask them why do they believe what they believe. Well, that's the question that I pose to you. You know, why do you believe that there is no God?
There you go again. Atheism is not the belief that there is no God. Atheism, the proposition is some God exists, and if you think that it's true, you're a theist, and if you don't think it's true, you're an atheist. That doesn't necessarily mean that you hold the belief there is no God. The example that I've used before is when juries vote, they vote guilty or not guilty. They don't vote guilty or innocent. So the fact that you voted guilty, not guilty, doesn't necessarily mean that you're convinced that they're innocent. It's just that you
Right.
you remain unconvinced of guilt. Now there are atheists, and we have a label for it. It's commonly named anti-theism, and sometimes hard atheism, that actually do believe that there is no God.
Correct. Now,
But that's not a requirement of the atheist label. And so the reason that I don't believe is because I have not been presented with sufficient evidence to justify that belief. And I want to believe as many true things and as few false things as possible. So I based my beliefs on reason and evidence.
right, and I hear, as I hear people call in, I hear a lot of people talk about truth, and this is just my opinion. I hate, I dislike no one or what your beliefs are your beliefs, or what you don't believe, that's what you do as a person, here on earth. We've all been, we're here on earth, and we all going to have different mindsets, I guess you could say.
Sure.
Now, I heard you saying earlier that at one point you were a Christian.
Yes.
Yes.
And I wonder, was it an event that happened in your life, or something that opened your eyes to get you to, turn to atheism? Now, I heard Jen, trying to remember exactly what she said.
Well, you could just ask her. She's right here.
Yeah.
No, I'm trying to remember. I couldn't. It was like 2 or 3 callers ago, and I meant to write it down, and I walked downstairs and kind of forgot about it. But
Well,
you were saying like if something tragic happened in someone's life.
Oh, we were talking about
Oh,
why
yeah.
people believe
Turn
God.
to God.
Why don't you go ahead?
Yeah, the question there was, why do so many people turn to God when something tragic happens? And,
Right.
And so, yeah, we were talking about a caller who was asking that specific question.
Okay.
In my
Well,
case, to answer your question from a minute ago, no, there wasn't some event. I never got mad at God. I never had a tragedy. I didn't lose somebody I loved. My thing was, I was studying to be a minister and wanted to be the best Christian I could be, and so I spent more than a year and a half at a particular point in prayer and study, and my roommate was an atheist, and I wanted to make sure that I didn't end up in heaven while he was ending up in hell. So I began to investigate the objections to my religious beliefs, and it turns out that I did not have any sound, rational justification for my beliefs. I've been a skeptic my entire life. I just didn't apply it to my religious beliefs, and as soon as I did, I found that there was no justification. Meanwhile, while I'm engaging in this on a rational level, on a level of study and investigation, I'm also in prayer basically begging for God to offer me anything because this, I want to do the best I can to serve Him, and I got nothing. Now, even if I'd gotten something at this point, I would have to do some serious thinking about it, because it would be very arrogant of me to presume that I could not be fooled or delusional.
Right.
One of the things that we do when we try to figure out whether or not our beliefs are accurate is we look for corroboration outside. And so if there's a God that manifests in reality in some detectable way, then this is something that we can investigate. And the investigations never turn up a God.
Right. And one of the things that, I understand what you're saying, but me personally, because at one point in my life or in my walk, I felt like there was nothing to believe in. I guess you could say no God, because of the things you see within the earth. You see poverty and all these bad things.
Oh, but see,
you say you were praying and looking for something, and I was at one point too, and I remember what really got what really set my mind, I guess you could say, into the mindset that I'm in, was that I seen a woman healed
of what?
Of thyroid tumors. She had like 54 tumors within her body.
How do you
and
know?
Her doctor actually came, and he was not a Christian or anything.
How do you know?
But because he told me.
Okay.
He told us. He said he was not a Christian, but he said I had to come to church with my patient because I did not believe what I seen happen.
And no
She
one,
had 54 tumors.
no one would
within her
ever set
body.
that up and lie to anybody about that, right?
No, well, anybody could lie about anything, but
You're right.
what was the reason? What was the reasoning of lying?
To
This
get you-
lady was
to get
healed.
you- to get
this
you to-
woman.
It doesn't
Now,
even.
this is what I'm saying, though. She brought her X-rays because
Which, of
people
course,
said
could not
just
be
what you
faked.
said. No, people
So-
said exactly what you said.
So-
and trust me, I do. Jen,
Danny.
I do understand where you're coming from because this is the same. This is how I used to feel about it.
Danny,
It's
this
like
is one of the biggest
anybody can-
scams out there.
Huh?
This is one of the biggest scams out there. Every TV preacher out there just about has
Mm-hmm.
that claims to be a faith healer has pulled this on people. This happens
Right.
literally every day.
But here's the thing. It doesn't even have to be a lie, and it doesn't have to be an intentional fraud. The fact of the matter is, first of all, it's more plausible that it's a mistake than that it's a miracle.
Yeah.
But second of all, even if we know cancers and stuff go into remission, we know
Right.
that people do recover from illnesses, including terrible illnesses on occasion. If
Well,
hang on,
I've
hang
just
on,
never seen it happen
Danny,
within a week.
hang on. Even if this happened, even if a woman had 54 tumors and the next day she had 0, how do you know a God did it?
How do I know what God?
How could anybody know what the cause of the healing was?
Well, the reason is because and like I said, this is me, so I can't exactly expect you to understand all of what I'm saying. But I believe, because I am a believer in God, when I pray something, I stand on that thing. I believe
Which is
that
not-
God is going to do it because He has it. Well, the lady, I wasn't the one that prayed for the lady with the tumors.
doesn't matter.
but
It
doesn't matter
I
who
have
prayed for her.
people.
It doesn't matter who prayed for her. It doesn't matter if anybody prayed for her. I'm asking. Okay,
Correct.
here
But
is an event.
You're asking me how do I believe?
No, I'm
I
asking
believe
why.
Because I prayed before and something happened. You were saying you were looking for something. Or you were
Sure,
praying
that's
to
called
God at one point.
that's called the post hoc ergo propter hoc fallacy. The after this, therefore because of this. If you take an aspirin and say a prayer, which one fixed your headache?
But the thing was, nothing was taken.
Okay, if you say a prayer and your headache goes away, did God take your headache away?
Yes.
How do you know?
How do I know? Because
Yes.
He said it in His Word.
How
Because
do-
headaches
I
never
believe-
go away on their own.
Huh?
Because headaches never go away on their own.
The point is,
Because they never go away on their own.
she's being sarcastic.
Yes, it's called sarcasm.
She's trying to
Oh,
demonstrate.
no, I'm sorry.
Hang
no,
on,
no.
Danny.
I do believe you can. I do believe you can have a headache, maybe go take a nap, wake up and the headache is gone.
Sure.
I
Okay.
do believe that.
And so,
But I also believe that you could stand before me. I pray for whatever it is that's going on within your body, and I believe that God can heal you instantaneously or take time.
well,
Because
boy,
sometimes-
there's a
because-
win-win
Well,
scenario.
Well, this is what I'm saying. The
God
reason
might heal
why-
you now, or He might take a little while.
Hey, if
No,
you,
You're
if you,
setting up a
the
win-
reason why I'm saying
Danny.
it may take a little.
Danny, you're setting up a win-win scenario. You're setting up a no-lose scenario. You're beginning with the belief that God can and does do these things. You are in no way attempting to justify that God is in fact the cause. Because, and I think it's because that you, like everybody else, understands that it would be impossible to do this. This is one of the problems with investigating the paranormal. We can investigate whether or not a phenomenon manifests in reality. We cannot ever rationally verify a supernatural cause. All we can ever do is assert that that's the cause, and we can't have any justification for it. You can believe
Right.
all day, but you don't have any good reason to believe. And given the fact that headaches sometimes go away on their own, you have no way of calculating what the likelihood is that a God investigated. Because when we calculate the probability, we put the number of times X has been observed to be the answer over the number of cases. And the number of times that X has been identified, that God exists and God has interacted in human beings, has been successfully identified as being the answer, is 0. And so you cannot even begin to calculate how probable this is. You are just going off of what you believe and suffering from confirmation bias. I believe God can heal you. I prayed, you got better, therefore God did it. No, that's not how we determine causality.
No, and you know what? To a point, I agree with you on that.
I'm sure you do. It's the point where you stop agreeing with me that's the problem.
No, the problem is broadening your mind. Like I said, at one point you believed that there was a God, but because you seen no proof, you stopped believing. So who are you as a human to demand proof?
Who am I not to?
Yeah, how can you not?
How can you not?
How can you just believe something without evidence?
Danny, you believe that God made us, right?
But this is what I'm saying.
Danny, stop.
Me personally,
Danny.
I'm saying maybe you haven't seen evidence of
Danny, you just asked me a question.
Something spiritual.
Danny, you just asked me a question. Who am I to do this, okay? You believe God exists, right?
Mm-hmm.
You believe God created us, right?
Yes.
You believe that God wants us to know He exists?
Do I believe He wants us to know?
Yes.
Well, yes, I do.
Okay, we're getting there. You believe that God gave us a brain and the ability to reason?
Yes.
And you believe that reason is a reliable pathway to truth that we use all the time in all other aspects of reality, correct?
Correct.
Then why is it that God would, or that you would ask, who am I to demand that God demonstrate Himself with reason if my eternal salvation is based upon whether or not I believe? And I am going to use the tool that God gave me, according to you, in the most correct, reliable fashion, and it does not confirm evidence of the existence of God. Doesn't that mean that your God is intentionally hiding from reason, the best tool that He gave us to discover the universe?
No.
He's not.
There's a purpose and a reason for everything.
Well, what is that?
Everything that we learn in life. Sometimes,
wait.
And this is just an example.
What is the purpose and the reason for not letting us use a tool that you say your God gave us? What would be the purpose for that?
For not using the tool?
Well,
yeah, you just said we're not supposed to do that when we.
I
didn't say we're not supposed to do that.
What you said is that your God wasn't hiding from reason and that He also doesn't succumb to reason, which is a contradiction. Either your God exists or He doesn't. Agreed?
Agreed.
Now,
and me personally, like I said, my beliefs, because of what I experienced,
yes, we understand what your belief is.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, we understand. You believe.
Right.
So, if your God exists, he either manifests in reality or He doesn't, correct?
I didn't quite understand the question.
So there's two possibilities. Either the God that exists manifests in reality or doesn't. Those are the only two options.
No, he exists.
No, okay. Either your God exists or He doesn't exist. Agreed? Those are the only two options.
He does exist. Just because you cannot see Him does not mean He does not exist. That's what I'm saying.
Danny.
And trust me, I understand.
Danny.
I'm not,
No, Danny, you don't understand because I've set up
understand.
two mutually exclusive logical possibilities, and all I've asked is for you to acknowledge them so I can go on to the next point. Either your God exists or He does not exist. Those are the only two possibilities, yes or no.
He exists because I've seen what.
Lance in Reno, Nevada, thanks for waiting.
Hello. Became a member of your site and donated.
Well,
thanks so much.
Thank you.
Both very much for your wonderful work. Quick question.
Okay.
After listening to many episodes on YouTube, I was wondering if a government that considers itself responsible, protecting its citizens, should it at some point protect itself against the negative, harmful aspects of religion?
Yes.
Yeah.
That's my question. Or top.
Yeah.
Yes.
And it depends on, if you're talking about preventing people from attending a church of their choice or whatever because you think that belief is harmful, then no, I wouldn't go so far as to say that. But if you're talking about, for example, Jehovah's Witnesses don't believe in blood transfusions. And if you're talking about them saying that their children can't have blood transfusions. Well, I think that it's a government responsibility to step in and protect the children from, a situation like that. Same thing with, other medical interventions or something like that.
It may be difficult from time to time to figure out exactly where we draw the line on state intervention, how much are we trampling upon people's rights to believe what they want and do whatever. But the key thing is this. Religion should never get preferential treatment. Whatever standards we have for determining when we are going to intervene, how much harm there is, and what sort of harm qualifies for us to intervene, we should intervene absolutely consistently. Religion gets no favorite treatment.
Yeah, which is why the Catholic Church, which has been instrumental in covering up a massive scandal with the pedophile priest scandal, I believe that the Catholic Church should be investigated and potentially prosecuted as a criminal conspiracy. Because they have engaged in a criminal conspiracy to protect pedophiles from prosecution.
All around the world, too.
Yeah.
I mean,
Okay. In terms of preferential treatment, what about, when people are delusional, accept aspects of reality or science, depending on how out they are, we have drugs, therapies, institutions for them.
Yep.
But when they pull out their Bible, which I think is their get out of the funny farm free card, now they have...
Now you've gone a bridge too far for me.
Yeah.
Not everybody who believes is crazy. Matter of fact, most of them aren't. It's perfectly reasonable to believe something and be wrong and not be crazy or necessarily harmful or dangerous to yourself or others. By and large, we're talking about good, sincere people who have, in more cases than not, are victims. They are the ones who have been convinced of something that is potentially harmful. But it's not the same as the people we end up putting in the rubber rooms.
Yeah, kind of like the previous caller, Danny.
Danny.
I think Danny's a
I
victim.
don't want Danny locked up.
I think he's wrong, but he's not crazy. He shouldn't be locked up.
I want Danny to
I think
investigate logic some more and to call back and have more discussions. I would never want Danny locked up just for the fact that he believes things for bad reasons, because we all do that. The fact, and I'm going to talk about this at the end of the month at the American Atheist 50th Anniversary Convention here in Austin. I'm going to talk about skepticism and atheism. And I'm not doing so from the lofty position of, I've managed to sort all this out and now I'm going to teach you all how to be perfect. It's one of the problems with atheists in general is they're not skeptical enough, because they've managed to beat the most difficult question or the most prominent question in the universe. It's not difficult at all. This is really pretty simple. And because they hear studies about how atheism is correlated with intelligence and education, they begin to think that, well, they can't get anything wrong. You guess what?
And they're not skeptical of that study.
Yeah, we can all get it wrong. We can all be wrong. Doesn't mean you're crazy. Doesn't mean you're evil. Doesn't mean you're a despicable human being that should be discarded. It means that you're human, and we're here to do what we can to help all humans, including us. That's the end of the show. I got to let you go. Thanks to everybody who showed up in the studio and all the people who make the show happen. We'll be back next week. Bye-bye. Da-da-da. Da-da-da.